Hello everyone, welcome to Internally Screening. Today we are starting a new series called Non-Stalgia. On this series we're going to be covering films from our youth that we perhaps haven't revisited in a long time to see whether they hold up after the many years that it has been since we last saw it. Now, don't get us confused, just because it has non-nostalgia in the title does not necessarily mean that we think of these films inherently negatively. This is just going to be a sort of discussion of how well it has translated through the years. Now, today we start with Treasure Planet, a film that I've never actually seen before, but Rupert has long-standing, beloved childhood memories of. Yeah. So I'm going to be kind of grilling him on whether this holds up.
Yeah, I watched this film relentlessly as a kid. I was just big into space stuff, because this was around the time the prequels were coming out. Yeah. So I was in big Star Wars mode. Obviously Pirates as well, so Pirates of the Caribbean was...
I think the year after
this.
Yeah,
so it was kind of very culturally relative to me at the time, and it's a shame that it flopped because so much of it seems to be like a hit. Like, I know me, my brothers, loads of people at the time seem to really enjoy it. Most people who've seen it seem to really like it. So
it just didn't have that same exposure that a lot of these Disney films
basically did. The history of it is that this film was kind of the baby child of John Musker and Ron Clements, who had made a bunch of Disney films before, including I think Aladdin and The Little Mermaid, and they basically since the 80s had been pitching to Bob Iger, the head of Disney at the time, please can we make this Treasure Island in space film? And Bob Iger basically just kept going, no. And eventually they just made so many like hit popular 2D animation kids films that they finally caved in and let them do their sort of weird project. On the flip side, basically Disney ended up kind of screwing the film by not promoting it. If you go on YouTube now and search up trailers for this film, they're all fucking terrible, and it like got some like weird like promotional tie-ins that no one cared about.
Treasure Planet is flying into McDonald's. There's a world of treasure to discover at McDonald's.
And I think it came out at the same time as some other films.
Okay.
So it basically got buried. It had a really big budget for the time, I think of like 140 million.
That's insane.
Yeah, like really big budget.
That's 140 million then as well.
And it only made like I think 100 million back if I remember correctly. So it really flopped, which I think is unfair that they should have at least given it a good promotional run, because I think this had big potential to be like a successful series or just a successful standalone film. I think it's good enough to go up there with plenty of the other 2D animated stuff, because we always look back fondly on the Disney animated 90s era, but there were a lot of duds in there as well, and I think this is definitely sort of in the upper half of that table, in my opinion.
Right.
And it is also just very original, because it manages to take a very classic folkloric tale, because it's just, we've heard it so many times.
Yeah, so embedded in culture at this point.
Like the Treasure Island story, everyone's heard it, and kind of actually do an interesting spin on it just by changing a few things, really. Yeah. And adding some cool aesthetic choices. So it's a bit sad that it flopped, but at the end of the day, it is a weird film, so you are kind of taking that risk.
Yeah, true. I mean, it came out the same year as Lilo and Stitch, I believe, didn't it? And obviously Lilo and Stitch has had a far longer lasting legacy than that. So the introduction of Silver, who, we obviously know to be in reference to Long John Silver, who we know what's going to happen with that character. And I kind of liked that rather than beating around the bush with it and kind of leading the audience round in circles when they don't need to be treated like children, they literally just go, oh, you're going to betray me, aren't you? He's already prejudiced against him just because he's a cyborg. Yeah. Like, surely there's loads of cyborgs in this fucking...
I don't know, but do they all have an arm? That's sick.
True. Multi-purpose. Got Inspector Gadget out here. I definitely won't be betraying you anytime soon now. I love you, surrogate dad. I hope you never betray me.
Or leave me.
Like my real dad. And it just kind of like hits you out the gate with that.
Because it's not really a film that needs a big twist or a big dramatic reveal. The film doesn't really have any super high emotional crescendo. I mean, the only point I can think of that really sort of hits that mark where it's like, oh, this is the big dramatic moment is, I guess this is a spoiler, but the bit where he sort of lets go of the ship to go and save Jim. That's the climax of the film. It doesn't need a big, like, this is what I was up to the whole time twist.
Yes, right, yeah. I mean, yeah, they've got plenty in terms of the scale of the action and everything going on, but in terms of the core storyline of it, they didn't need to like lead you around in all these twists
exactly.
and
It's just
turns.
not necessary.
No, and I appreciated that about it. And I also appreciate how much time they lend to building that relationship between Silver and Jim.
Yeah. Well, and you know, it's a film that, if you think about it, they actually really don't spend all that much time together in terms of like raw screen time. They spend a good amount of time together, but not like tons. But because they do that like montage, and like the relationship it's not like, oh, this sort of deep psychological battle, which is fine, but they have like a good chemistry together.
Yeah. He's like a surrogate father figure, but there's always there's the complications. Yeah, I thought it was kind of nice how they dealt with that relationship and that dynamic, because the easy thing to do is just have the really binary switches, because it's a film for children. To simplify things for your audience, they'll just go, evil man bad, good man good, he hates bad man. But instead they have this kind of relatively complex relationship where they have mixed feelings towards one another. They are conflicted. I can't do it.
I can't do it, Captain.
I love him like me own son. I hope when the film ends, like, Jim goes to visit him in like space jail.
Prison planet. Right across the aisle from Treasure Planet and Sewage Planet.
Wouldn't it be incredibly impractical to have Prison Planet right next to Treasure Planet? They all get out.
No, it's like teasing them in the sky.
Oh, I see.
Plus, they're all trying to get onto Treasure Planet, so you just have like a, you know, real quick bus.
Oh,
over.
I see. So you have a bunch of people guarding. Oh, okay, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I like the scene where they're like hiding out on the planet, and he's like, "Oh, you know, I was just saying that stuff. They thought I'd gone soft." And then like you can tell that he's like kind of hurt by it, but then he is telling the truth. That is what he said.
Yes.
Because so he's telling the truth, but he's also trying to get him to do something.
Yes, it's still scheming.
So it's quite a sort of like an emotionally complex thing that you wouldn't. I mean, tons of like complex kids films, but like that is a kind of unique thing, I guess.
I guess it's the easy route. I appreciate a film not going the really standard, straightforward route, actually treating your audience like they have some cognitive capability, because children aren't fucking idiots. They will need. They need something interesting, and it also, you know, enlightens them to like a bit more of how the real world works.
Yeah. I mean, I think my only disappointment in terms of characterization coming back to this film was Jim is like a pretty generic character.
Yes.
More than I remember, because as a kid, I was like, the solar surfboard is sick.
Yeah.
And like, he's got a cool look, you know, like he does cool stuff. When I was a kid, I thought this shit was so fucking sick.
So he's Marty McFly.
Pretty much.
Damn. That guy's getting a crazy combo on Tony Hawk right now.
Oh.
Damn, he's got like the Anakin Skywalker cut with like the ear piercing.
Yeah.
That was needlessly dangerous.
That was sick. That's so sick.
We apprehended your son operating a solar vehicle in a restricted area.
He did a totally sick ollie. He had a score multiplier of over 30,000.
But he's a little bit more boring than I remember, because I think I was just not, I didn't care.
Yeah.
So coming back to that was a bit disappointing. But Silver was as good as I remember.
Yeah,
so.
Silver is one of the best characters. Well, maybe the best character. He's the focal point, really.
Yeah.
He's the one that gets the most time to really establish his ins and outs. Yeah, Jim.
He seems like he has like real history to him. Like you watch it and you're like, oh, this guy's done stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas Jim is a bit of a blank slate, which I guess, you know,
which is classic for these sorts of roles and these kinds of characters. I mean, he at least has his sort of passions well telegraphed early on, but he's more of an aesthetic kind of. Yeah. That's what's special about him.
I think the reason he doesn't like kill the film is because he has that like, fun relationship with Silver.
Right, that's the big.
Because if you have a bland character, you can kind of get away with it a bit if they bounce well off.
If you pair them off with someone cool,
and like because the chemistry between them works well, you don't really notice that much until you have scenes just with Jim. Yeah, it's like, okay, this guy's kind of boring.
Yeah, the support cast. What do you reckon of? I forget the Dr. Dog, I'm going to call him. I like that he's a dog person, so he has dog bowls.
Yeah, it's great.
Dang it, Jim, I'm an astronomer, not a doctor. I mean, I am a doctor, but I'm not that kind of doctor. I have a doctorate. It's not the same thing. You can't help people with a doctorate. You just sit there and you're useless.
Literally every PhD student.
Average PhD student.
It's what they should be like if they're not. Oh, look at me, I'm clever. Fucking get a grip.
Yeah, get over
look at me, I'm going to help people with my knowledge.
Yeah, incorrect.
Fucking do-gooder. be a real man and start a YouTube channel about films.
And make no money. I forget his
okay.
name.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the characters. There's not really. The film it's kind of like an ensemble. So like you have a lot of characters. Like you have the cat lady. You've got Morph. You've got all the crew kind of have their like little individual quirk about them. The dog character, I guess he's kind of like a comedic relief / it makes sense that he would accompany this child out on the voyage.
He's clever but also useless.
Yeah.
So it's like he's just like
he's one of those characters in a kids film where it's like sometimes he's annoying, but he kind of has to be there, and sometimes he's kind of funny. I don't really have any strong feelings about it personally.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, his character, I really like the actor that plays him. I forget his name off the top of my head. It'll be on the screen now. The guy from Frasier who plays his brother. I really like him as a voice actor. I'm sure I've heard him voice act in a couple of other things.
The performance was good. Yeah.
He has like a real dry wit and charisma to him.
He's not like the most basic form of that character, I'd say that.
Yes.
It's like I've seen that character be done in like way more boring ways.
Oh, for sure. I guess I would say just generally that outside of our core two characters, I'm kind of disappointed how little many of the other characters have to do at all. They are very thin.
The mum's quite good, and then she doesn't.
Yes, I do like the mum, but yeah, she's there for the intro and then she's gone. I like the spider guy. He's awesome.
He was great.
He's really cool as a kind of foil, like a main villain.
There's not really much to him, but he's a great. Again, it doesn't really matter.
He's like the heavy.
Yeah,
right?
You don't
He's the
need.
classic heavy.
He doesn't really need a backstory, really. I mean, you could give it one and maybe it would improve the film, but ultimately you don't need one. He just looks cool and he does bad shit and he sounds sick.
I love, I mean, briefly touching on character designs, the pirates in particular,
they're great.
I love how goofy a lot of it is. They're like, some of them are just heads. There's one guy that's like a head balanced on a body and that body has a face.
Yeah.
What are you looking at, weirdo?
There's a female character that's like literally
demon.
like some crack demon. We said that like one of the women from Breaking Bad. Like,
What's this?
can I sell it for a bit of crack?
We said I never followed this boy.
I think the canon for her character is she's literally had a full body amputation.
Oh my god.
She's just her shoulders.
So they
now.
just give you mini arms.
She literally just has arms and a head.
Yeah.
Bizarre. I mean, and you got the six-eyed guy.
Yeah.
Basically, they're almost entirely characterized by their aesthetics.
But what I think is good about it is it's all the kind of things that I would draw as a kid.
Yeah.
Like little just fucking weird aliens.
Right, yeah, there's a kind of beautiful simplicity
like
to it.
Quite imaginative. It's not just like they're pirates. It's like
this
guy, he's up in the crow's nest looking through the telescopes. He's got a million eyes.
Right, no, I like that.
I mean? So I think there's a kind of a childlike enjoyability to that.
They've tapped into like the youthful exuberance in their design work. But you know what?
It's like a Year 5's art book.
I do rate that. I do rate that. So how do you feel about the level of spectacle in this film? Like, are these set pieces, like you have the huge sort of mid-film black hole sequence and then the ending sequence where everything's exploding in the planet core, like do they still live up to...
I guess coming back to it, it's just remarkable how few there are, but I think the ones you get are really good. Like, I love the black hole sequence because it's really fucking dark for a kids film to have a guy get sucked into a black hole, especially a good guy.
Well, especially coming back to it now with our knowledge of what would happen to you if you get sucked into a black hole.
That was
the notion of a big rock man being spaghettified was kind of interesting.
The film is kind of all about like because it's in this sort of cool idea where you have this kind of atmosphere-rich space where you just kind of fly around space and land, and then you go back up. You don't need a space helmet or whatever,
which I think is awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. That's
one
like
of the coolest,
most
distinct imagery,
because it really captures your imagination. As a kid, I'd be like, oh, that's so cool, like if you go in space. And that scene, it's all about like the kind of the movement of the ship, and stuff's flying around and there's meteors, and the ship's like twisting and turning. I think that's really cool stuff, and it kind of like playing around with gravity.
We briefly interrupt this film to bring you Armageddon. Don't wanna close my eyes. What? Is that a black hole? Oh my god.
Ride that last McGiller out of here!
We're going to ride the nuclear waves.
They did what Armageddon couldn't. Surf the nuke.
Come on, rock, Chad. Uh-oh.
I just think as a kid that was so brutal. Still kind of is.
It is kind of brutal.
Straight to a black hole. You don't get to see him get spaghettified, sadly, but...
Morph would be fine. Morph is already spaghettified.
I think that guy may have just died quite horrifically. I think his rocks got turned to lava.
Sheesh. Could you reform him if you cooled him down?
Yeah, but he'd just be like one rock.
You have to sculpt him out.
Yeah, you'd have to like break him into little pieces and like, yeah, I don't know.
Reassemble him.
I think that's a great sequence, and the bit at the end as well with the treasure and the core of the planet's like splitting apart and all the treasure's falling down.
Oh, come on, vaporize at least one of them. There you go. Oh yeah, we'll call that vaporize.
Like, that's pretty conclusive, that one. I think that's really cool as well, and you have also that sort of weird, slightly kind of creepy sequence with the spider guy.
Oh yeah, it goes like kind of weirdly like, you know what it reminds me of? Both Alien and Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Because you got like the whole boiler room thing with Nightmare on Elm Street. He's down in like part of the ship, but all the lights go out. It comes back on, everything's red and black.
Yeah, I love that.
And then he drops down from the ceiling like Alien does. It, like the Xenomorph does.
Yeah, I like this film doesn't like hold back like that.
That guy's got a great gravel to his voice. Gravel boy.
Where have I seen that exact shot from? Where you're like going down a corridor and it goes like, and it goes up on the ceiling.
Monsters Inc.
Ah!
Ooh, spooky. Okay, that is pretty sinister. Damn, this film was about to do a straight like Alien bit.
No!
Oh, yes. Say hello to Mr. Arrow.
Should've just snipped it. Pretentious fuck. There are still loads of great kids films that can get like a little bit edgy now, like this is not a new one, I guess. The one I always think of is Coraline.
Oh,
like the perfect balance where a kids film is still a bit scary, but it feels like forever to me since like a kids film has been scary. You know, when I was a kid, you know, when I watched, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a scary kids film now.
Well, there are scary moments in kids films. So, for example, like the moment in, say, Toy Story where they're in the room with all of Sid's like malformed creations, or in Finding Nemo when they find themselves one with the shark, like where Bruce first appears. That's genuinely quite intimidating. But the bit in the deep sea where they're being chased by the anglerfish, things like that. There's like moments of like and old Tim Burton things like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Of course. Coraline to me is always the classic because that's like, it's quite a horrific film.
It is really a horror film adapted.
Yeah, which is. And I love that when films used to have those like scary moments.
Yes.
And I just feel I haven't seen a kids film so long that had a scary moment. So that was really cool, and I kind of wish it was a bit longer and you had more of it.
Dragged out.
But he gets a really horrible fate. He fucking floats up into space and presumably dies of dehydration and hunger. So that's fucking brutal.
Yeah,
I love that. So
it's cool. I like that moment in the character because he's like such a vindictive, evil, vengeful character
for no reason. He's
he's just an arsehole. And then there's that moment and like final realization of fear in his eyes, and they draw that in really well. And then suddenly he's like screaming for his life.
It's like
it's a really cool.
They like linger on it as well. So I like the kind of sadism that the filmmakers had there. It's kind of gonna be like, whoa, look at this guy, he's fucking dead.
Yeah.
Whereas I miss that. When I one day have kids, I'm gonna make sure I show them some scary shit.
Just get them on Alien Earth.
No Coco Melon. You're watching Requiem for a Dream right now, kiddo.
There's a perfect anti-drug PSA.
You'll never do heroin after I showed them Requiem for a Dream at the age of 4.
Train spotting. Yeah, get them in early.
But I also like it has that final kind of action bump where they have to like fly the ship through the portal. If I had a criticism of the action, I just think that they could have kind of paced them out a bit more and had a bit more of it.
Yes.
Coming back to it, but the film is it feels very short anyways, and it does really kind of hammer through things.
I guess the film really is well paced in that way because you kind of have a lot of time early on to establish and develop the characters, and then once you have your first action piece, then it's that's when the peril all starts to set in, and you
yeah.
have a lot more calamitous events happening.
I do really like the solar surfing bit at the beginning.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool.
The Tony Hawk.
I kind of wish that they'd incorporated that more as well, like
Yeah.
him flying around on a surfboard or
because
whatever.
you really only get that start and finish.
Yes,
and
exactly.
that's kind of it.
It's cool they bring it back. Yeah, I like the action. I mean, do you agree with most of what I'm saying? Like, the action's good. I just wish there was more of it.
Yeah, no, I would say so. I particularly like the creativity of like the portal thing at the end. I did find the whole trying to like switch my brain off of like with the black hole segment of going, okay, this is complete. Obviously, this film has established new rules in space.
Yeah.
But they're right next to a supernova, and it just goes off and doesn't kill
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
It doesn't kill them, and then they're like kind of riding the waves out of the black hole as it like turns into one. Fine, I kind of got over that, but then at the end they're really worried about like getting out away from the planet when it's about to explode. Yeah, they've just ridden a fucking black hole. That's way more dangerous than an exploding planet.
Yeah, they're right next to the explosion as well. They like go in the black hole.
Yeah, they're inside the black hole. They don't even get slightly squished. So yeah, I thought that was. I mean, you know, it's a kids' film, but the inconsistencies. If you're going to establish any kind of rules within your film,
you should stick
like
to it.
The levels of peril kind of veer wildly and inconsistently. I really like the final piece in the core of the planet. But I not only do I wish there was more of it, but I kind of wish there was more going on geographically, like
but that's what I mean, because I think the closest you get to that is that kind of chase bit in the ship where the spider's coming for him.
Yeah. There's
I know they can do it.
Yeah, because you have this sense of scale, but really it's like character falls off something. Character has to run over one little thing and, you know, make a jump or something. And it feels like you've got all this space. You could do something much more dynamic and interesting with that, especially given the sort of 2D, 3D combination thing they're doing in this film, which we'll touch on a bit later. So yeah, I think overall solid action, builds to it well, but they could just have done it.
What so frustrates me about this film being so unpopular, maybe it's not unpopular, but it's so unsuccessful, is the opening sequence is really cool as well, with the sort of pirate tale in the kids' book.
Oh, that's nice.
And I love that kind of like larger scale battle bit that you see. And I would love to see a film where you had like some more of that.
Yeah, like a Treasure Planet
proper
2
like fighting, and you can still make it be a kids film, but like a bit more like Pirates of the Caribbean and ships, you know, doing battles in space. I mean that
Treasure Planet 0, where you go back, so you see the old evil pirate doing
Captain Flynn. Yeah, I would love to see that. So. Yeah, that's a frustration, but it doesn't detract from my enjoyability of the film that much.
No, I think.
But I do agree with what you're saying.
It's overall solid in that department.
Yeah.
I'd also like to talk a little bit about the humour. Generally speaking, I think they don't tend to overdo it. Like we've mentioned, the dog. I keep just calling him the dog.
He's called like Doppler, I think.
But yeah, we've talked about how he provides some level of levity and comic relief, but because the performance is done well, and because he does actually serve like a purpose to the plot.
He is a character. He's a fleshed out character.
He's not annoying. I think there are a couple of characters that I do just find really annoying. There's 2 or 3 kind of overtly comedic things. One, I think the biggest thing, which you were complaining about when we watched it as well, so I'd be interested to hear your opinion.
Ben the robot. Yeah, he has to be there as an exposition device. I don't mind that he's just there for exposition, because the explanation of why he's there and the backstory that they give him with Captain Flynn, I think, is compelling enough that you could do something with that character. But he's just quite annoying, and he's not that funny.
No,
he could be annoying and funny, and I would like that much more.
Oh yeah. I don't think they nail a single funny thing with his dialogue.
Not
whatsoever.
really. Yeah.
I think it's all.
He doesn't he's not quite like ruin the film level, but it's like
luckily he's not in it that much. He only comes in the last sort of 20, 30
But he
minutes.
is a very crucial character, because you need him to explain the whole film so that they can find the inside of the planet with the treasures. Yeah, that's a bit annoying. I think Morph is mostly good. It's like a classic Disney character where it's like you have to have the small, cute, fluffy thing. And he is kind of actually funny at points and has a bit of like character to him. I think they overuse him, but
yeah, Morph was kind of confusing out of the gate for me, because just immediately the way they introduce him, it's just like, oh, there's just this random shape-shifting blob of mucus.
Yeah.
And that's just the character. There's just a fucking blob.
Morph.
His sidekick, his cute animated sidekick, is a little puddle of what the fuck. Okay, I'm deeply unsettled by it making baby noises.
baby, do you know that makes that noise?
Okay, well, it took me a little while
He's
to...
like, I found him in the speeds of Spender.
He says something
just
like
some random shit.
Yeah.
Like, whatever, I guess. He is cute, and the whole shape-shifting kind of taking the piss out of
You've
characters.
seen it 100 times before.
Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head, but he reminds me of umpteen
A
different
cute
Disney.
version of Randall from Monsters Inc.
Kind of, yeah. There's a little bit of Mushu from Mulan in there as well. But yeah, fine. You rephrased it while we were watching the film, and I got on board with it a little bit more. He's so freaky to look at. I find him so unsettling. It is cute, but it's just like really fucking weird.
I've never seen anybody take issue with the character more.
It's just a blob of mucus.
Yeah.
It's just like weird.
But it's pink, so it's cute.
It's like weirdly lacking in imagination for such like a high
It's just
concept
ditto.
film. Yeah, all right. Yeah, it is just ditto. Yeah, I guess. All right, you've persuaded me. You've talked in a vernacular I can get behind. But I do find, generally speaking, I thought it was just very predictable Disney
It's just
kind of
pandering.
schlocky shit that you have to have your one little Disney thing you can sell a toy of. Obviously, they probably never did sell toys of it.
It's kind of a funny inversion of that, because selling a toy of a shapeshifter would probably be quite difficult.
Yeah.
So they kind of.
That's actually, you know what? That's a good point. Yeah. Like, I know, if you did sell it in this day and age, it would just be one of those slime things, but with a face. Because kids love slime.
Yeah,
to my
true,
knowledge, they
slime,
still love
yeah.
slime.
I guess the fart character's a bit weird. However, you did laugh every single time he was on
I was just so shocked.
It's the Giga Chad Captain.
It's the biggest chin of all time.
I forgot about this.
That's a fart monster.
Yeah, I don't know why it's there, but it is.
Oh, why does he have to be a recurring character?
It's tickling me personally, but I'm very lowbrow as a human being, so.
Rupert, you would make this film, but with cast.
The entire cast is the
Only
fart
farts.
creatures, yeah.
And
Because that would only be the greatest film made since Citizen Kane. Okay, so what do I know about cinema, hey?
And then the one comic relief character speaks English, and everyone's like cracking up because whoa,
and
this guy
the
doesn't
entire
fart.
cast is racist to him. They're like, fart in his face.
Until at the end, he eats something that makes him very gassy, and then he farts, and they bond.
There you go.
There you go.
But that thing will not be baked beans because that is against my philosophy.
Fucking Christ!
You laugh every time, so it's clearly a necessary inclusion, Adam. See, you always laugh. You can't act like you're too good for it. You literally laugh every time it's on the screen.
Man. It's dumb as shit.
Yeah, well, why are you laughing then? So shut up. You literally have no right. When we review this, you try and criticise that, I will roast you because you laughed every time. It was frankly too lowbrow for me. Shut the fuck up, Adam.
I've never seen a film that has a character that all he does is fart.
Originality.
Every time it happened, I was just like,
You
oh
know
my
what
god,
shocks me?
he's still here.
What I never noticed. What's great about this film, as I was saying earlier, it's got quite a high death count by the end of it.
Yeah.
And at the end of the film, I'm pretty sure the fart monster is no longer there.
True.
So he fucking dies.
The fart monster must die. Is he one of the mutineers?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So the fart monster bites the I'm sorry, the audacity of a film I don't care how child-friendly, what family film you want to make, of just having a character that exclusively communicates in flatulence.
In a way, it's a very high form of satire.
If they were going for that, then I commend them for it, because it does work in that way. But it's just so outrageous. It's so bold. Because that fart jokes are often like so lowbrow. Like the way they're used. Like you fart, you know. All right, I'm not gonna stand here and say farting isn't funny, because farting is funny. But it's just like often it's so shoehorned in. It's like, oh, we need a laugh at this point. Oh, let's just have a character fall over.
It's like, I guess it is at least a more original version of that kind of humour. I've never seen anything do something like that.
You're right. You know what?
But it is still. It feels cheap when you're watching it. Like, oh.
That pretty much summarises it exactly. Yeah, I even laughed when a guy randomly burps. So what am I even talking about? At the end of the day, I am a fucking hypocrite.
Excuse me, brutish pirate. Yes, you. I have a question.
You laugh at every bit of flatulence in this film.
Shut the fuck up.
You're literally a 10-year-old.
So I guess a big aspect of this film, something I feel really set it apart, before I'd even seen it, I had seen trailers as a child and things like that, was the aesthetics of this film, like the design work and this implementation of 2D and 3D. To my knowledge, this was one of the earliest adopters of that kind of sort of setting a stage for a frustratingly brief kind of period of animation where these two forms combined. And I guess in my mind, it makes for a perfect amalgamation within this film, because you have literally a combination of old story, old setting with, you know, this kind of...
it's kind of steampunk.
Exactly, yeah, exactly that. So yeah, you got all this 18th century or 19th century Victorian shit, and then it just like... bang, you've got all of this futuristic sci-fi stuff. I guess it is as steampunk as you could get. So having that melding of new and old tech.
No, that's a good point. I never really thought about that. I think this definitely, because it's a bit more sort of out there. If you watch something like Prince of Egypt, which was I don't know when that came out, but that was
era.
Another one of those early adopters of the 2D plus 3D animation thing, and that is a little bit more seamless. I don't know if that's just because it came after this. I don't even know when it came out. So
maybe it's just because DreamWorks were doing it, and they
maybe
a bit more of a knack. Who knows?
The Kings, but. Yeah, that's a bit more seamless. Whereas this is, because it's doing like a lot more colours. Like Prince of Egypt is like obviously mostly beige.
Yes,
but whereas this is like very colourful. So there are some points where you look at it and it's like, wow, that is CG.
Yeah.
Or you look at it and you're like, there's a bit of a clash. Like with the whales early on, they're really CG, and the animation is.
I think it's something to do with the textures of things. Like some things are really flat and matted, and other things are really like vibrant and like. You're obviously curved and things like that.
But then there are also points where I notice it, but I can see that it's really working. So there's a bit where they're like getting chased through a corridor, and like all the surrounding is clearly CG, but the characters running are all 2D.
Right. Yeah.
And it looks really good, and it feels really good. And it clearly allowed the animators a lot of freedom, especially with a concept like this where you have like ships flying around and all that kind of stuff, to get something a bit smoother, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it works pretty well. I think it's just like a kind of early adopters thing.
Yeah.
And I think the art direction of the film's like really amazing. You can tell like so much thought was put into like, you know, how the guns look and how they shoot, and the ships look amazing. They're so cool.
I mean, particularly Silver's character design as well, with his cyborg components. The kind of I guess a kind of neat character thing of having his eye switch from gold to red, kind of almost signifying the two sides of himself.
Yeah.
As for the boy, I'll run him so ragged he won't have time to think.
And this Inspector Gadget arm.
Swiss Army arm?
Swiss Army arm.
Army arm.
Yeah, that works. It sounds really weird.
Yeah. But it's cool. I mean, it's again, as a kid, I saw that arm. I was like, that's fucking cool. His arm's got a sword and a gun in it.
Yeah.
Like, and he can cook eggs with it. Like, it was just...
At the beginning of the film, he cooks that food suspiciously quickly. I will say that. I would not trust that.
It's called a flash fry.
You're getting some horrible food poisoning off that shit.
Well, he is a pirate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why... you know what? If anything, that's a beautiful first indication you can't trust him. So he sells you food straight away. He's not even cooked the fucking shit.
Yeah, the main thing I think I like about the visuals in this film is that you get an actual sense of like scale. Like a lot of kids' films are like quite small or like contained, or if they are big, you can kind of feel the cheapness of it. It feels like fucking huge. Like the ship's like flying around in space. You've got this black hole that's like massive, or they're on the planet, or like, you know, the bit where he's like falling down when the thing's splitting apart. And he's like holding on. It's like, oh fucking hell. Really, you kind of get that sort of vertigo, because I think the film really nails the scale of everything so well. Which is what I enjoy about it.
Yeah, I like the design work with that planet particularly as well, where you've got like, it's all kind of mechanical underneath. It's like this, I guess, man-made planet.
Yeah, they like make it to like a treasure or something.
Yeah. I think that's excellent. I think that's a level of like world building as well. That's I mean, we're essentially been saying this the whole time, but the world building here is immaculate.
Yeah, which is what's so frustrating, that we never get anything else. But I think maybe that's the best thing that occurs.
The starport that's in the crescent moon.
Yes, that's excellent.
Great. That's so cool.
This is sick.
Oh shit! Oh, that is cool. Okay, I rate that a lot. That's excellent.
That looks like the thing from Phantom Menace.
Yeah, they've literally just carved the section out of Coruscant. I will say the architecture of this is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, but it's sick, so what's a few deaths to cool architecture?
Did Bioshock Infinite entirely rip their premise off?
Kind of, yeah. It's one of those things that a kid would come up with.
It's so simple, but so wonderfully.
I love
effective.
the zoom in and you see all this.
And it like rotates. That's a great blending of the two forms.
Yeah.
Where it rotates and reveals so much.
And we also sort of touched on, I guess, one of the other, the strongest aesthetic thing really is the character designs, which we've already really talked about. But just the imagination and everything is very different, but feels sort of singular in the universe. There's nothing that feels particularly out of place.
Or particularly borrowed.
I guess the challenge you have making a film like this is you want everything to feel very scattershot and random, but you also want it to feel at least sort of singularly cohesive in one way.
Yes.
So you don't have this thing is just completely different. I don't know. It would look weird in this film if a fucking 40k Space Marine was there,
right, yeah.
So you want to have everything be.
Or someone had a lightsaber.
Yeah. It would just look like it doesn't fit in. Yeah. Whereas it manages to have that kind of ramshackle, all the crew are weird and one guy's a spider, but it feels
there's a consistency
universe,
to it, somehow.
Which I think is quite an impressive thing to pull off.
Okay, so after having reevaluated this film many years after you would last have seen it, what would you rate it? How do you feel about it?
I think in terms of a film I haven't seen in ages that I loved so much as a kid, it feels inevitable I'm going to come back to it. I'm not going to like it as much as I did when I was a kid. When I was a kid, this was one of my most played DVDs. I absolutely loved it, all the space stuff, all the battles, and it's one of those films that just kind of unlocks your imagination. I think there is a real value to that. Assessing it as a film, it feels much kind of shorter, and obviously as I'm an adult, my imagination has died, so it doesn't give me quite the same giddy joy it did as when I was 10 years old or whatever I was when I watched this film. But I do think it holds up pretty solidly, and I'm going to give it a very biased 7 out of 10 because it's just fun. It sets off the dopamine alarm in my brain while also not being completely shit.
No.
So because I think that's the thing, right? It's if you go back and you watch a film from your childhood and it's terrible, you get a little bit of dopamine every now and again, but it's this sucks.
You almost get an anti-dopamine hit.
Yeah.
I hate
this
film.
This ruins
it.
Yeah. Whereas this film, probably objectively not a 7 out of 10. If I looked at all the other films I had rested 7 out of 10, I'd be like, oh, is it as good as those? Right. But because it's good and I'm getting the dopamine hit, it gets that extra point. I think that's ultimately how it works for everyone.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, I think, pretty much reflecting exactly what you said, I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. I thought it was a remarkably solid and well-made film. Aesthetically, I think that's one of the things that really sticks in my mind the most about this. And as kids' films go, you could do so much worse. And for this film to have been so unsuccessful in its time is genuinely unfair, I think.
Yeah.
Because, as we have established, you could get so much more from this kind of level of world building.
Yeah.
But I think the lack of nostalgia factor just sets this as a solidly decent kids film for me. I mean, one I'd happily watch again.
I could watch this pretty much any time.
If I had kids, I'd show this to my kids. It's got that, and I think it bears a mark of quality that a lot of kids' films don't necessarily have, in that it seems to treat its audience with a level of respect.
It's got a little bit of edginess.
It has some maturity, some sort of it's not just full of binary shit, or it's not just coddling your audience. So I think it has a lot going for it in those regards. So it seems like the first episode of Non-Stalgia has been a success. We have come back and evaluated something, and it's been good, which is rare from us because normally we like to shit on things.
I know. I'm pleasantly surprised by how well it held up. I was sort of a bit like, oh god, is this going to suck? So thankfully it was good.
So if you have any recommendations for future episodes of Non-Stalgia, please let us know in the comments. I guess
we'll have to guess if we've seen it.
Well, I guess kind of part of it, my experience in this video has been of someone with no nostalgia from this.
Yeah, but it has to be from one of us, right?
Yeah, all right. If you were born if you were born in the 90s, we'll say that.
Yeah.
If you have a film, all right, how about this? If you have a film from the 90s or early noughties that you think qualifies something you've maybe not seen or experienced, just let us know down in the comments and we'll cover it. We'll cover it if we haven't seen it in ages. We're not going to cover shit like Shrek or The Incredibles or Finding Nemo. It's shit that we've seen throughout our lives, because
Hidden gems.
this is about re-experiencing something we haven't experienced in a long time, and seeing if that spark still ignites in us. We've got a few ideas in the tank, so if you've enjoyed this, please give it a like and subscribe. If you dislike this, please give it a dislike. Remember to hit confirm when you unsubscribe from the channel. And that's been us. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.
Peace. I'm so sweaty.